Good morning, Team Alabama. We are ready for some more Hatchet. Please find it on your Chromebook at this time. Sorry. Please find Chapter 5 and Hatchet and read along with me. We're page 40, Chapter 5. Thank you. His eyes snapped open, hammered open, and there were these things about himself that he knew instantly. He was unbelievably, viciously thirsty. His mouth was dry and tasted foul and sticky. His lips were cracked and felt as if they were bleeding, and if he did not drink some water soon, he felt that he would wither up and die. Lots of water, all the water he could find. He knew the thirst and felt the burn on his face. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun had come over him and cooked him while he slept, and his face was on fire. Would blister and would peel, which did not help the thirst and made it much worse. He stood, using the tree to pull himself up, because there was still some pain and much stiffness, and he looked down at the lake. It was water, but he did not know if he could drink it. Nobody had ever told him if you could or could not drink lakes. There was also the thought of the pilot, down in the blue with the plane strapped in the body. Awful, he thought, but the lake was blue and wet-looking, and his mouth and throat raged with the thirst, and he did not know where there might be another form of water that he could drink. Besides, he had probably swallowed a ton of it while he was swimming out of the plane and getting to shore. In the movies, they always showed the hero finding a clear spring with pure sweet water to drink, but in the movies, they didn't have plane wrecks and swollen foreheads and aching bodies and thirst that tore at the hero until he couldn't think. Brian took small steps down the bank of the lake. Along the edge there were thick grasses, and the water looked a little murky. Murky means kind of dark and discolored, like with some dirt in it. And there were small things swimming in the water, small bugs. But there was a log extending about 20 feet out into the water of the lake, a beaver drop from some time before, with old limbs sticking up almost like handles. He balanced on the log, holding himself up with the limbs, and teetered out past the weeds and murky water. And when he was out where the water was clear and he could see no bugs swimming, he kneeled on the log to drink. A sip, he thought, still worrying about the lake and water. I'll just take a sip. Okay, let's add to our facts. What's he doing right now? And what are the problems? What are some problems he's having? Top of page 42. Read along with me on your Chromebook. But when he brought a cupped hand to his mouth and felt the cold lake water trickle past his cracked lips and over his tongue, he could not stop. He had never, not even on long bike trips in the hot summer, been this thirsty. It was as if the water were more than water, as if the water had become all of life. And he could not stop. He stooped and put his mouth to the lake and drank, pulling it deep and swallowing great gulps of it. He drank until his stomach was swollen, until he nearly fell off the log with it, and when he rose and tripped his way back to the bank, where he was immediately sick and threw up most of the water. But his thirst was gone, and the water seemed to reduce the pain in his head as well, although the sunburn still cooked his face. So, he almost jumped with the word spoken aloud. It seemed so out of place, the sound. He tried it again. So here I am. And there it is, he thought. For the first time since the crash, his mind started to work. His brain triggered, and he began thinking, here I am, and where is that? Where am I? He pulled himself once more up the bank to the tall trees without branches, and he sat again with his back against the rough bark. It was hot now, but the sun was high and to his rear, and he sat in the shade and the tree in relative comfort. There were things to sort out. Here I am, and that is nowhere. With his mind open and thoughts happening, it all tried to come in with a rush, and all of what had occurred, and he could not take it. The whole thing turned into a confused jumble that made no sense. So he fought it down and tried to take one thing at a time. He had been flying north. to visit his father for a couple of months in the summer, and the pilot had had a heart attack and had died. And the plane had crashed somewhere in the Canadian North Woods, but he did not know how far they had flown or in what direction or where he was. Okay, guys, that's page 43, and those are all great facts to use. Slow down, he thought. Slow down more. My name is Brian Robeson, and I am 13 years old, and I am alone in the North Woods of Canada. All right, he thought, that's simple enough. I was flying to visit my father, and the plane crashed and sank in a lake. Then, keep it that way. Short thoughts. I do not know where I am, which doesn't mean much. More to the point, they do not know where I am. They, meaning anybody who might be wanting to look for me, the searchers. They would look for him, look for the plane. His father and mother would be frantic. They would tear the world apart to find him. Brian had seen searches on the news, seen movies about lost planes, and when a plane went down, they mounted extensive searches, and almost always they found the plane within a day or two. Pilots all filed flight plans, a detailed plan for where and when they were going to fly, with all the courses explained. They would come. They would look for him. The searchers would get government planes and cover both sides of the flight plan and filed by the pilot and search until they found him. Maybe even today. They might come today. This was the second day after the crash. No, Brian frowned. Was it the first day or the second day? They had gone down in the afternoon, and he had spent the whole night out cold. So this was the first real day. But they could still come today. They would have started the search immediately when Brian's plane did not arrive. Yeah, they would probably come today. Probably come in here with amphibious planes, small bush planes with floats that could land right here on the lake and pick him up and take him home. Which home? The father home or the mother home? He stopped the thinking. It didn't matter. Either on to his dad or back to his mother. Either way, he would probably be home by late night or early morning. Home where he could sit down and eat a large, cheesy, juicy burger with tomatoes and double fries with ketchup and a thick chocolate shake. And there came hunger. Brian rubbed his stomach. The hunger had been there, but something else, fear, pain, had held it down. Now, with the thought of a burger, the emptiness roared at him. He could not believe the hunger, had never felt it this way. The lake water had filled his stomach but left it hungry, and now it demanded food and screamed for food. And there was, he thought, absolutely nothing to eat. Nothing. What did they do in the movies when they got stranded like this? Oh yes, the hero usually found some kind of plant that he knew was good to eat, and that took care of it. And he just ate the plant until he was full, or he used some kind of cute trap to catch an animal and cook it over a slick little fire. And pretty soon he had a full 8-course meal. The trouble, Brian thought, looking around, was that all he could see was the grass and brush. There was nothing obvious to eat, and aside from about 1 million birds and the beaver, he hadn't seen animals to trap and cook. And even if he got one somehow, he didn't have any matches, so he couldn't have a fire. Nothing. It kept coming back to him. He had nothing. Well, almost nothing. As a matter of fact, he thought, I don't know what I've got or haven't got. Maybe I should try and figure out just how I stand. It will give me something to do. Keep me from thinking of food until they come to find me. Brian had once had an English teacher, a guy named Perpich, who was always talking about being positive. Think positive, staying on top of things. That's how Perpich had put it. Stay positive and stay on top of things. Brian thought of him now and wondered how to stay positive and stay on top of this. All Perpich would say is that I have to get motivated. He was always telling kids to get motivated. Brian changed position, so he was sitting on his knees, and he reached into his pockets and took out everything he had and laid it on the grass in front of him. It was pitiful enough. A quarter, 3 dimes, a nickel, and 2 pennies. A fingernail clipper, a billfold with a $20 bill, in case you get stranded at the airport in some small town and have to buy food, his mother had said, and some